Good morning, girls and boys. How are you today? The first story I'm going to read is called Goldilocks Returns. Now, we all know the story of Goldilocks and the Three Bears, right? But I didn't know that there was a follow-up, a sequel. So this is called Goldilocks Returns by Lisa Campbell Ernst. As a child, she was known as Goldilocks, and she was very naughty indeed. Her favorite hobby was snooping in houses where no one was at home until, of course, all that dreadful trouble with the bears. Then Goldilocks grew up, and the older she got, the worse she felt about her horrid behavior. She shortened her name and pinned up her curls so no one would recognize her. Goldie opened a shop to help people protect themselves against snoops. But no matter how she tried to leave her life of crime behind, it haunted her day and night. Goldie had nightmares about bears. She cried at the mere sight of a teddy bear. Her customers even began to look like bears. "I can't take it any longer," she sobbed at last. "It's time I set things right." Early one morning, Goldie loaded up her truck, turned her shop sign to closed, and zoomed off toward the deep, dark woods. At that very moment, the three bears, whom she had scared out of their wits years before, were sitting down to breakfast. They were Papa Bear, Mama Bear, and their son, who, though not a baby for some 50 years now, still went by the name Baby Bear. Due to the fright brought on by Goldilocks, he still had a wee little voice. Their breakfast was as usual, porridge, and as it had been every day since any of them could remember, and it was much too hot to eat. "Grab your hats," Papa Bear sighed, and the three unsuspecting bears left for their daily walk. No sooner had the bears left than Goldie screeched to a stop in front of their cozy cottage. "It hasn't changed a bit," she gasped. Strapping her tool belt on, Goldie walked to the door and knocked. A smile crept across her face as she realized the bears, again, were not at home. Goldie walked right in. "I'll fix that," she said, chuckling. And with a drill in one hand and a screwdriver in the other, Goldie swung into action. Moments later, the bear's door was laden with the finest in locking hardware, padlock, double bolt, and the secret anti-snoop lock she used in only the most serious cases. "Won't they be delighted?" she said. Next, Goldie headed for the kitchen. There sat the 3 bowls of porridge. "Yeesh," she said, "it's the same goop as before." Goldie emptied the bowls in the sink. "They won't have to eat this nasty stuff anymore." And she set out her special, fat-free rutabaga breakfast bars and cans of tart and tasty celery juice. Goldie stocked the cabinets with enough breakfast bars and celery juice to last for months. While she was at it, she threw away any food she thought was unhealthy or she didn't like herself. "No, now let's spruce this place up a little bit." She pulled out 3 bolts of pom-pom fringe and her staple gun. The results were stunning. Feeling better already, Goldie burst into the living room. "Egad," she cried, when she saw what Baby Bear had made from the pieces of his broken chair. "Nothing a little hot glue can't fix," and she whipped out her glue gun, and in no time, the rocking horse was a chair again. "Good as new," Goldie said. "No, better." So he had turned his broken chair, into a rocking horse, and she put it back to a chair again. "Now let's fix those other ghastly chairs." Even after all these years, Goldie still judged Mama Bear's chair too soft and Papa Bear's too hard. The stuffing was quickly removed from one chair to the other. Goldie hung hoity-toity drapes, scattered pillows, and covered all the furniture with shiny plastic covers. "Perfect at last," she declared. Goldie raced up the stairs to the 3 bears' bedroom. "Good gosh," she said, testing the beds of Papa Bear and Mama Bear. "Just as I remembered. Too hard, too soft." And before you could say Rip Van Winkle, she had adjusted the stuffings to her finicky liking. Goldie sprayed ravishing rose perfume in the air and tied bouquets of plastic flowers around the room for a back-to-nature look. "It's glorious," Goldie sang, falling back on the Baby Bear's bed to admire the room. "The bears will be so grateful," she thought. Suddenly, Goldie was exhausted, and once again, Baby Bear's bed was just right. Before she knew it, Goldie had drifted off to her most peaceful sleep in 50 years. The bears, meanwhile, were finally returning home from their walk. Seeing the truck, they began to worry. They hadn't had much luck with visitors in the past. "What on," Papa said, noticing the locks on the door. And then he heard Baby Bear squealing in the kitchen. "Oh no! Oh my gosh! Oh my heavens!" he cried in his wee little voice. "Look! Look!" With jaws dropping and eyes popping, the two older bears did just that. Papa Bear snarled at the sight of the table and bellowed in his big, deep voice, "Someone has taken my porridge." Mama Bear nodded. "Someone has taken my porridge," she said in her medium-sized voice. And Baby Bear, discovering the mess in the sink, cried in his wee little voice, "Someone has taken my porridge and they've thrown it all away." Memory told the bears to race to the living room. It was a shocking sight. Papa Bear's knees buckled and he fell into his now poofy chair. "Someone," he growled, bristling, "has been fooling with my chair." Mama Bear tried hers and gasped, "Hard as a rock. Someone has been fooling with my chair." "Ah!" Baby Bear screeched, stomping up and down. "Someone has been fooling with my chair and they've put it all back together." All three bears ran helter-skelter up the stairs. "P.U.," Baby Bear gagged. "What's that smell?" "Ravishing roses," Mama Bear read, picking up the empty bottle from the floor. The two older bears did not even check their beds. They knew where to look. What they saw made their fur stand on end. Baby Bear began to tremble. "She's back!" he wailed, hoping it was all just a nightmare. "Someone's been sleeping in my bed and here she is, again!" And at that moment, Goldie's eyes popped open. "You're home!" Goldie shouted, crushing each bear with a hug and kissing their furry cheeks. The shocked bears opened their mouths to protest, but Goldie raced on. "Now don't thank me. I know you're terribly grateful. But after all, I was the one who caused the trouble to begin with. Of course, I've more than made up for that." Goldie gleefully danced through the house, pointing out her deeds. "Naturally, I fixed that silly little chair," she said, "and I got rid of that nasty porridge. The rutabaga breakfast bars are fat-free, so you might even be able to lose that extra weight over there." She chuckled, tapping Papa Bear on the stomach. A growl began to grow in Papa Bear's throat, but before he could get it out, Goldie tossed him the keys to her fancy locks, hugged them all again, and climbed in her truck, and she was off. "Wait! Come back!" yelled the bears, but it did no good. As her truck rounded a curve in the road, the bears saw a flash of gold. Goldie, smiling, unpinned her curls and shook them out in the breeze. The dazed bears slowly turned back to their cottage. They moved awkwardly about their fancy-smancy house. They couldn't eat, couldn't get comfortable in their chairs, and so they finally went to bed. But no one slept a wink. The next morning, the three exhausted bears sat at the kitchen table, miserably staring at their rutabaga breakfast bars and celery juice. "Maybe we should just go for a walk," Mama Bear suggested, and they all ran for their hats. The three bears set off through the woods, relieved to be out of their house. But just then, Baby Bear spied something through the trees. It was a very mischievous-looking little girl, skipping along the path that led straight to their cottage. "Oh no!" he panicked. "Not this again! We didn't lock the door! Quick, stop her! She might eat our food! She might mess up the fancy things! She might break my chair!" The bears began to run after the girl, but then they suddenly stopped. "Eat the food?" asked Mama Bear. "Mess up the fancy things?" asked Papa Bear. "Break my chair?" repeated Baby Bear. Very slowly, they all smiled. And then, turning around, the bears happily continued on their walk. The end. Goldilocks was happy, Goldie, because she thought she fixed the bear's house, and the bears were happy because that little girl would come in and break up that little baby bear's chair and would mess up the fancy smancy house. So that's what happened to Goldilocks as she got older. The next story is a pretty true story. It's about how they built the Empire State Building. I'm sure some of you have either seen the Empire State Building in a photograph or been in New York City. It was the first really tall skyscraper in New York. And this book is called Sky Boys: How They Built the Empire State Building by Deborah Hopkinson and James E. Ransom. These are actual photographs that were taken when they built the Empire State Building. And believe it or not, these men high up in the sky were working on building the the Empire State Building, but they did not have any lifelines holding on to them. So this guy here, look how high he is. He's way up in the sky. It was very dangerous work, and they were very brave men. So here we go. So just imagine, it's the end of the winter, and your dad's lost his job. So every morning before school, you scour the streets for firewood, hunched down in an icy, icy wind. But look, here's a pile of wood free for the taking, all carted off from that old hotel they tore down at 34th and 5th. 600 men are working there, leveling, shoveling, hauling, clearing the rubble away. They're getting ready to make something new. Bold, something soaring, a symbol of hope in the darkest of times. A building clean and simple and straight as a pencil, and tall, so tall it will scrape the sky. You drag your dad along to see and tell him what you've heard on the street. Mr. Raskub wants to build the tallest skyscraper in the world, you say, taller even than Mr. Chrysler's building. They say it'll be done by next May. You think they can build it that fast, Dad? Things are so bad, it seems. Foolish to even try, he replies, and then he sees your face and adds, well, you never know. So let the race begin. First come rumbling flatbed trucks. Look at all those trucks. Bundles of steel on their backs like a gleaming, endless river surging through the concrete canyons of Manhattan. This steel is strong and new, only 80 hours old, barely cooled from the fiery furnaces of Pittsburgh. Before your eyes, a steel forest appears, 210 massive columns lifted by derricks and set onto concrete piers sunk 55 feet down to hard rock bottom. Columns so firm and strong, they can bear the full weight of this giant to be. It will be 365,000 tons. Then it's the Sky Boys show. Derrick men hoisting, swinging, easing each beam into place. High overhead they crawl like spiders on steel, spinning their giant web in the sky. Watch out, Sky Boys, don't slip in the rain or let the wind whisk you away. Wouldn't you love to be one of them? The breeze in your face and your muscles as strong as the girder you ride? Or you could be a water boy, climbing high with your bucket to bring the Sky Boys a drink. They'd laugh and call out, keep your eyes on the beam, water boy, and don't look down. As each beam is placed, the riveting gang is there to fasten the frame together. 4 men work as one. First man, the heater, gets the rivet red hot in the forge and tosses it up quick. A throw of 50 feet is nothing to him. He throws it up. Second man, the catcher, snares the rivet in his funneled can. He fishes it out with tongs and sticks it in the hole. Third man, the bucker-up, keeps the rivet nice and steady with his bar. And the fourth man, the gunman, hammers it into the steel good and hard. Toss, catch, steady, pound. Toss, catch, steady, pound. 1 or 2 rivets a minute, 500 rivets a day. At the same time, other workers use 6 hoists to carry 8,000-pound loads of wood and steel right to where they're needed. And on each floor, hand-powered rail cars on tracks move limestone, pipes, and wires around. To make the work easier, there are temporary elevators, water tanks, and yes, toilets, 5 lunch stands, and even a restaurant. No need to lead the job. You get hot beef stew and coffee here on the unfinished 47th floor. So these guys are sitting up here having their lunch, just sitting on this girder. And there's a photograph that you can that's been taken, a real photograph, and not just a picture like this, a painting. These guys were out there without any lifelines. In this new, ingenious assembly line construction, each man works as fast as he can, knowing that down below, 100 jobless men are ready to take over his spot in a flash. Yet knowing, too, that the quicker he finishes, the sooner he'll be back in line himself, waiting and desperate for work. From your spot on the sidewalk, you watch the building take shape, bit by bit, piece by piece, like a giant real-life puzzle, rising 4.5 stories every week. In November, the Sky Boys give a cheer. The skeleton has a skin. All 102 stories are done. So this is June, July, August, and that's what they are done by November. And by March, The mast on top of this the mast on top makes this the tallest building in the world. Look at all these guys. It's at 5:42 p.m. on March 18th, 1931. Like a general launching an attack, the builder sends in more men, bricklayers, masons, carpenters, electricians, plumbers, all hammering, nailing, wiring, and cutting morning till night, week after week, month after month. May 1st, 1931, opening day. Finished in record time. 60,000 tons of steel, 10 million bricks, 2,000 tons of marble, 6,500 windows, 70 miles of water pipes, 1,860 stairs. 1 year and 45 days, 7 million man-hours, more than 3,000 men, a triumph of speed, safety, and efficiency. And something else too, beauty. The ribbon is cut, the crowds swarm in. Amazing, spectacular. Now the world can see what New York City's all about. Outside, Dad is a big surprise. Let's go on up, he suggests with a grin. I've been putting our pennies aside. The crowd sweeps you into the marbled lobby, a tall, grand lady, clothed head to toe in rich, glowing colors. On the center wall, a silhouette glitters like a jewel, the Empire State Building, pride of New York City. To go to the top, it's $1 for adults, 2 bits for kids. Hop on board for the longest elevator ride of your life. Just swallow if your ears start to hurt. In no time you're there, but even on tiptoe you can't see a thing. Then whoosh, you're up on Dad's back. Gee whiz, you shout, we're on top of the world. Pop shakes his head, disbelieving. If we can do this, we can do anything, he says. Itching to see it all, you jump down and race around the deck. North and south and east and west, all Manhattan lies at your feet. Say, Dad, you call, do you think there's a kid just like me way down there who's looking at us up here? After a while, the sun slips away. Tiny lights and stars flicker on. Bright threads of taxis lace the darkness below. The great city shimmers and hums. All around, folks are starting to leave. You beg, please, Dad, a few more minutes? But it's time. So with one last look, you head down to earth. On the long walk home, you're fuzzy with sleep, holding tight to your father's rough hand. But then at the corner, you turn and stop in short surprise. Look, Dad, we can still see it from here. Oh, how it lights up the night. The end. That was during a very tough time in our country, during the recession, during the Depression, and people worked together, and that's kind of what's happening right now in our community. We're all working together to get through. Some of what's going on is keeping you all home from school, but it's going to end at some point, and we'll be happy to know that we all worked together. So boys and girls, I will see you another day. Have a good day.